The fluorescent hospital lights buzzed faintly above me as I drifted in and out of consciousness. Every breath was a labor, every movement a reminder that I was fighting for my life. I could hear the steady beep of the heart monitor next to me, counting off the seconds of my fragility. Then I heard my father's voice, cold, calculated, unbearable. "Don't waste the expensive medicine on her. She's not worth it." I tried to focus, to make sense of what I'd just heard. My dad, the man who had taught me to ride a bike, who had kissed my scraped knees, was telling a doctor not to save me. And then my mother chimed in, that sickening, calm, casual tone, as though she were discussing groceries. "We have a vacation to pay for." The room went silent. The doctor froze mid-step, his eyes shifting from the IV drip to my chart, and then back to my parents and a mixture of horror and disbelief. I could barely hear him say, "Do you have any idea?" before the tension was broken by the whir of the hospital machines. My body trembled, not from the illness, but from betrayal. The parents I trusted more than anyone had decided I was expendable. I wanted to scream, to call them out, but my body refused me. I was weak, dependent, powerless. As the hours dragged on, images of my life flashed in my mind. Birthday parties where I had been overlooked, holidays where my siblings had gotten all the gifts, achievements ignored, praise withheld. I had always known something was off, but to hear it voiced so plainly, it was a dagger straight through my soul. The nurse came in, adjusting my blankets, giving me that half-smile of sympathy. Her eyes lingered on me, but I noticed the quick glance she gave my parents. I realized they knew. They knew my parents' true colors. And that's when I made a promise to myself. If I survived this, if I lived through the betrayal and pain, I would show them what it felt like to be powerless. I would survive. I would rise. And one day, I would make them regret underestimating me. The doctor finally spoke again, though he kept his voice low. "The treatment, it's expensive, yes, but it could save her. You need to decide quickly." And just like that, the power shift had begun. Not with money, not with words, but with the fire that had ignited in my chest. I didn't know then how I would do it or how long it would take, but one thing was crystal clear. I wasn't just fighting the illness. I was fighting the family who should have protected me. I closed my eyes, letting the IV drip steady my heartbeat, feeling the rage simmer beneath the surface. And for the first time, I felt a strange sense of calm. Survival wasn't enough anymore. Revenge would be. Welcome to Voice Revenge Story. If you love seeing justice served cold, hit that subscribe button. Weeks passed. I recovered, slowly, painfully, but fully. My parents acted as though nothing had happened, as though I hadn't overheard their callous conversation. They returned to their perfect lives, vacations, expensive dinners, and social media posts flaunting their wealth. But I was no longer the powerless girl in the hospital bed. I had watched them, studied them. My father's arrogance, my mother's vanity, they were predictable. I began quietly planting the seeds of my plan. It started small, anonymous tips to their accountant, quietly redirecting some of their finances without leaving a trace. Invitations to social events under false pretenses, emails subtly undermining their credibility at work. Every move calculated, silent, invisible. Then came the twist. My father had started bragging to his friends about how little he cared for me, about how he had saved money by refusing treatment. My mother, ever the social climber, shared the story with her book club, thinking it would sound like a dark joke. And that's when it all turned in my favor. A distant relative I had helped years ago, someone who owed me loyalty, contacted me. He worked in media. He could make people notice. I gave him the information I had collected, emails, receipts, recordings, proof of neglect and greed. A viral expose hit their social circle, then the local news. Friends abandoned them, colleagues shunned them, and sponsors withdrew support from my mother's charity campaigns. The very world they had flaunted themselves in crumbled around them. And yet, I didn't gloat, not openly. I let the consequences unfold naturally. I watched them, their panic, their confusion, their desperate attempts to regain control. Every frantic call they made, every public apology they were forced to give was like a slow, satisfying balm to my wounded heart. But the biggest shock? When my father came to my apartment one rainy evening, eyes wide with fear. He begged, pleaded, trying to explain, to bargain, and I looked at him, really looked, and saw him as he was, a man terrified not of the illness I survived, but of the truth he could no longer hide. "Do you feel satisfied?" he asked, voice trembling. I smiled, not with mercy, but with triumph. I survived. That's enough for me. And in that moment, I realized revenge isn't always about pain. It's about reclaiming your power, your dignity, your life. If you love seeing justice served cold, hit that subscribe button. Months later, life had settled into a rhythm I had crafted. My parents were shadows of the people they once were. Social circles dissolved, business ventures failed, and even their luxury vacations became tainted by public scrutiny. They were haunted not by what I had done, but by the truth they tried to bury. I, on the other hand, had built a life free from fear and dependency. I had a new career, supportive friends, and the kind of independence I had always dreamed of. Every morning I woke up with gratitude and a small, private smile at the poetic justice of it all. They reached out occasionally, awkwardly, trying to reconnect, but I knew some bridges, once burned, could never be rebuilt. Forgiveness wasn't my goal. Survival, dignity, and justice were. One evening, standing on my balcony, watching the city lights, I reflected on everything. The hospital bed, the betrayal, the fire that had ignited inside me. It had shaped me into someone strong, resourceful, and unyielding. I realized something profound. You can't choose your family, but you can choose your destiny. And in choosing mine, I had shown them the true cost of their cruelty. The head surgeon's shocked expression, the whispered words of my parents, the silent recognition of the world around them. They had underestimated me, and that was their downfall. I didn't need to gloat. I didn't need to prove myself to anyone. I had survived. I had risen, and in that quiet victory, I found peace. Some stories end with forgiveness. Mine ended with empowerment, and the knowledge that justice, when served cold, is far more satisfying than any apology.